Hi, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if it's your first time here. I'm Lindsay, and I know what you're thinking. Why are you sitting on the floor in a fur coat? Well, I feel like the fact that it's 2020 should be enough of an answer for you, but basically I already filmed this, and my camera hates me. I found out my camera has a personal vendetta against me and only likes when my brother uses it to film, and that's not very fair because I paid for it. But anyway, I already filmed this, it didn't come out well, I tried to fix it in editing, it was not good. It just wasn't good, and I want this video to be good because I have been training for it. I will insert clips of me training. Like, I planned this video for months, so, not months, like 1 month, so I just want it to be good. And typically, if you are new here, I do Tolkien content, anything related to things created by Tolkien, but today we're talking about his buddy C.S. Lewis, who created the Chronicles of Narnia and the Pevensie children. We're specifically talking about Edmund Pevensie and how I think he should be High King. Now, in the video I filmed before, I had notes. They were on my phone, which I am now filming with, so this is gonna go off the rails, but who cares? Would it be a Lindsay video if it didn't? So I'm just gonna go right into it. So basically, if we start in the Chronicles of Narnia, if we start in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, we know that Edmund was considered the traitor of his family. But like, are you a younger sibling? Because I'm a younger sibling, and I know what it's like to be picked on. He was a younger middle sibling, and they were constantly picking on him, especially Peter. Like, Peter loved his siblings, but he also loved to pick on Edmund. And I felt personally attacked by that, because guess who loves to pick on me? My older brother. You might even be able to hear him in the background, even though I told him to stop talking. So, I get that. He was angsty, his siblings were mean to him, and he ran into a white witch, the white witch, Jadis, when he ended up going to Narnia, even though he didn't believe Lucy that it was real. But like, would you believe your little sibling if they were like, this thing exists? So anyway, he runs into her and she tells him she's the queen of Narnia. Why wouldn't he believe her? Like, he was 10. If someone came up to me and was like, I'm the queen of this land you've never been to before, I would be like, right, cool. Like, Lucy just got lucky and met Mr. Tumnus, who gave her tea and then tried to kidnap her. I mean, how would they know? So she gives him, as we know, Turkish delight, which I've never had before, but I've heard it's not that great, but it was enchanted, so he was put under a spell, and it made him want more. So when he went back to the real world, he was in a bad mood, and in the book they explain that he's in a bad mood because he was just thinking about the Turkish delight and how much he wanted it. And so he ended up saying that Lucy was a liar and that he didn't see Narnia, even though he did see Narnia, which, guys, he's just picking on his sister. He was under a spell, and he was picking on his sister. Like, do you have siblings? If you do, you understand. So that whole thing happened, then they end up going back to Narnia, blah blah blah. You guys have seen it. If you're watching this video, I'm assuming you've seen the movies or read the books or both. So he goes back to Narnia, and all he wants is that Turkish delight. So it drags him back to the White Witch. And yes, he sees that she's evil. He finds that out when he goes back to her, and he ends up still selling out his siblings. But what choice did he have? Like, she's a witch that can turn people stone, and he was scared. He was scared for himself. He was scared for the other people of Narnia. So he was just like, I guess I'll have to tell you where they are. Which, even if he didn't tell her, she'd find them. So like, can you really blame him for that? So I don't blame him for any of this, and no one else did. He felt remorse. He cried when that fox was turned to stone. He felt really bad when he was reunited with his siblings. So we know he's not a bad person. And you want to know why else we know he's not a bad person? Because Aslan literally named him King Edmund the Just. So, which means morally sound, morally and ethically sound, having good judgment. So personally, to me, that's the reason why I think he should be High King. Because some people will argue that Peter is High King because of the fact that he has a moral high ground, which I do not agree with. The only reason I think he was High King is because he's the oldest. That's the only reason that made sense to me. So then if you move on to find more reasons why he should be the High King, we go into Prince Caspian. And I don't remember how old I was when that movie first came out. I just remember really liking it. So we move on to Prince Caspian, and we see more of Edmund. He's older, even though in the book he's only a year older. In the movie, they try to convince us only a year has passed, but you put first movie Edmund next to second movie Edmund, that's not a year. So they're saying a year has passed, and we're getting to learn more about Edmund in the movies, at least. He's because he's not being a traitor, and we find out that he's like really good as a swordsman. We knew he was smart in a battle in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and the reason why we knew this is because even Peter says the only reason they won was because of Edmund, because he knew to go after her wand. He was the only one that thought of that. So I digress, we're on with Caspian. So when they get there, Edmund notices that Caerphilly, if I even pronounce that right, is ruined. Is in ruins. And he notices the catapults. He's very perceptive. Why do I have trouble saying that word? He's very perceptive, and he notices everything that's awry here in Narnia. And then things happen, things pass, blah blah blah. They meet this dwarf because he was getting taken by Telmarines. I haven't read the book recently. I saw the movie like a month ago, but I also have the memory of a peanut. So they meet Trumpkin. Trumpkin's about to get drowned by Telmarines. Yeah, right? Because they tied him up. Anyway, but then Susan shoots them. Lucy would though. So Susan shoots them with her bow and arrow, and they drop him into the water because she did say drop him. And then Peter dives in and he saves Trumpkin, and Edmund gets the boat. Which you might think, like, why was that his priorities to get the boat? But I think it was pretty smart because Peter's getting the dwarf. Like, he saw his brother, like, he can swim, he can get him. I'm gonna get this boat because he thought to himself, we might need this later. And they did. So I just think that's something a High King would think, but whatever. So then, Trumpkin was all grumpy because he almost drowned, and he then finds out that the Pevensies are the past kings and queens of Narnia, and he doesn't want to believe it because he's like, those are children. And they're like, yes, we are, but we were adults once. It's very confusing, but we don't really care to explain it to you. So Peter's like, I have a sword. Let me prove myself to you. Except that's not actually what he said. That's what Trumpkin thought he was saying. But he said, I'm not gonna fight you. He is. Edmund. Because who's the better fighter? Who would have shown more skill? Edmund. The guy who should have been High King. We know this because there's so many examples, and this is kind of unimportant, but if you like notice that Peter tends to use a sword and shield, and Edmund's like, I don't need a shield, because he doesn't, because he's great. So back to whatever I was saying. He fights Trumpkin. It was a really quick fight. I was proud of him. Then they go to that whole thing, like, things happen. They meet Caspian. They invade Caspian's uncle's castle, which didn't happen in the book, but it had to happen in the movie because the books are too short, and I personally think the movies are better, but nobody asked. So they invade the castle, and guess who they send in first? Edmund. They send him in on a griffin. Hey Tolkien, Disney took your eagle and they made a lion eagle in your buddy's film. So anyway, they brought the people in on the griffins, and they brought Edmund in first. He had to tell them if the coast was clear. The coast was clear. The fight ensued. Susan, Peter, and Caspian all stuck together. Edmund was by himself because they knew he could handle himself and he didn't need any help. So then some guards come because, like, they were having that whole fight, or guards, knights, I don't know what they were. So the one disarms Edmund, but it wasn't a problem because Edmund had a flashlight and he doesn't need a sword. He can beat someone up with anything. He beat up this guy with a flashlight, and it was the coolest thing I've ever seen. Besides, like, everything else Edmund's ever done. So then, things happen. More things happen. They have to convince Caspian's uncle to fight Peter. Which, the reason why I made up in my head that it was Peter and not Edmund, I'm pretty sure they say this, something like this in the book, is because Peter was the High King. He was named the High King. And so if you were like Miraz, is that how you pronounce it? I literally watched the movie a month ago and I don't remember how to pronounce it, so I'm so sorry if I said that wrong. I'm just gonna keep calling him Caspian's uncle. So I think the way to convince Caspian's uncle to fight any of them was by asking him to fight the High King, because it's like his status, you know, made him more of a challenge. But Edmund really was more of a challenge because he was a better swordsman. Anyway, why do I say and anyway so much? No one asked. They sent Edmund to go convince Miraz to fight, again, Caspian's uncle, to fight Peter. And the reason why they sent him is because they even said in Chronicles of Narnia, he was the best when it came to political negotiations, persuasion, that kind of stuff. So, because he's smart and he should have been High King. And also because, like, they couldn't send Caspian because his uncle wanted his head, and it would be kind of weird if Peter was like, fight me. But still, I like to believe it's because Edmund was the best. Just a quick intermission. Yes, he was my childhood fictional crush, and yes, as an adult, I have moved on to have crushes on adult fictional characters. And yeah, but the thing is, I'm sure if you had childhood fictional crushes, you understand that there's always going to be a special place for them in your heart. Back to the regularly scheduled program. The war happens because the fight didn't end well, because like Peter showed mercy, which Edmund wouldn't have done, and I would have shown mercy because I am a little baby child and I am not gonna stab anyone. But if you are going to be a swordsman, you can't show mercy, because it ended up being a problem because Caspian also showed mercy, because Peter was like, it's your life to take, and Caspian's like, I don't want to do it. So then, like, a couple Telmarines stabbed him, and they were like, the Narnians did it. So it started a fight. I don't know why I'm summing up the movies. You guys probably know them. So they started a fight, and guess what? Edmund's over here. He's on a horse with a crossbow. He's like, I got this. Then he gets off the horse, and guess what happens? Peter looks at him to be like, what do we do? And Edmund takes out his sword, and that's when Peter's like, all right, for Narnia. And they fought, and then I'm getting very excited. And then the fight happens, and Edmund's over here somehow got a second sword. He's over here with 2 swords, taking these guys down like an absolute beast. And I was just like, that's incredible. And I'm a little upset because I don't even have 1 sword, and you have 2 swords. That's not really fair. So yeah, he's really good at fighting. That's the moral of that story. We move on to Voyage of the Dawn. Traitor. And that's when we find out even more about him, because of the fact that it's Peter's not there. Now, if you've only seen the movie, you might be thinking of that one scene where Caspian introduces Lucy and Edmund to the people on the ship, and he calls Edmund the High King. Maybe I was just hearing that. Maybe my brain wanted to hear that. But that's how I remember it. And it doesn't make any sense to me, because in the book, he doesn't do that. And in chapter 2, they say something about High King Peter, and then in chapter 8, Edmund says, my brother the High King, or the High King my brother, something like that. So Peter's not even there, and they're still referring to him as the High King. So I literally have no idea why they did that in the movies, because it didn't make any sense. Like, they even made it very clear throughout the films that Caspian was the current king. Whatever he said goes. So, but it still proved throughout the film how great Edmund was, because when they get onto the ship, they're transported to Narnia, they bring their annoying cousin, and he's sword fighting Caspian, because of course he would. Peter would never do that, but Edmund's like, I'm really good with the sword. So they're sword fighting. And even though, like, it's only supposed to be a year that passed in the books, but in the movies, like, I'm like, this dude is not 12. In the books, he was 12. In the movie, you want to tell me that's a 12-year-old? Anyway. He sword fights Caspian, and despite the fact that he hadn't picked up a sword in probably like 2 years, still got it. It did end up in a draw, but part of me is like, I don't know why I keep doing this. Part of me's like, he did that on purpose, because obviously, because Caspian's people are watching. outdo him. I know he didn't actually do it on purpose. I'm just telling myself that. So then moving forward in the book, he is the one that realizes that Lake turns things to gold. It does start turning his boots to gold, so that's kind of why he noticed, but he is very, he's more perceptive than everyone else, because like his siblings didn't notice the ruins, and then no one else around him seemed to notice that his boots were turning to gold. Even after he yelled like, "Get back," everyone was just like, what? Like no one noticed the boots were turning to gold until he said, "This lake is turning things to gold." So that is what I remember from that movie. Something else I wanted to point out was the fact that I think he is more level-headed than Peter. Peter is very emotional, and he shows that anytime his siblings are in danger, which all of the Pevensies care a lot about each other, despite what happened in line with the Witch in the Wardrobe, Edmund included. All the Pevensies love each other very much. But Peter is very, he's quick to get upset, to get worried. If he doesn't see Lucy, he's like absolutely freaking out, which I get it. Lucy is my second favorite. And Hi Queen Lucy is another thing we could have had. So he gets upset really fast, whereas Edmund is more logical and will think like, why, like, where could she be? Like, he's not gonna, from what I understand about him, is he's more, let's think this over. And he does also show that in Caspian when Lucy says she sees Aslan. No one believes her except for Edmund, and he's like, why shouldn't we believe her? Last time we thought she was lying, she wasn't lying, and I looked stupid, and I don't want to look stupid again, because I'm not stupid. He's not stupid, alright? And then I was gonna say something else, but I forgot it. Oh, I was gonna talk about the fact that I felt really bad for him because of the fact that in The Horse and His Boy, which that book, we're just like not gonna touch that much, but he does refer to himself as a traitor, and then again in Voyage of the Dawn Treader, he tells Eustace he was a traitor his first time in Narnia. And he had a lot of trauma because the witch kept showing up in his nightmares, and then when he was fighting that sea serpent, not sure why that happened, make the movie more interesting. He was fighting that sea serpent and the witch was tempting him, and that's another thing. I think, because if he were more emotional, and when the witch said, "Come with me, we'll be the most powerful king and queen," if he was more emotional and like hungry for power as people thought he was, he would have gone with her. But no, he was like, "No thanks," and then he stabbed the serpent. He's very mentally tough, because the fact that his trauma was constantly brought back up, and he got over it. Like in Caspian, the White Witch shows up again, and he was the one who ended up stabbing the ice and getting rid of her mirage or whatever that was. And he beat up that werewolf. Sword fought. I don't know, but it was really cool. And that hag thing, she just looks like a bird to me, but no one asked. So, in conclusion, in summation, whatever, however we're gonna end this essay, which I haven't had to write because I haven't been in school, because I am a graduate, and I like to remind myself that because I have nightmares that I have to go back to school, but nobody asks. It's just kind of like Edmund has his nightmares, I have my nightmares, okay? And then, you know what I forgot to mention? The best part of Caspian is when, the very beginning, when Peter's getting in a fight, and Edmund literally jumps in. He straight up jumps in and joins the fight. And the fight wasn't going well until he joined. That's what I'm saying. Going well for Peter. So in summation, the reasons why I think Edmund should have been High King: he was a better swordsman, he was more level-headed, and I don't think there's anything wrong with being emotional. I don't think I'm an emotional person, but I just think sometimes it gets in the way of decision making. And that's probably why he was also the person that did the negotiations, which is a great quality for a king, to be able to do those negotiations. Now I forgot my reasons. Just know he should have been High King. Alright, like I feel like I made it pretty obvious throughout this video why he should have. Like, Peter could barely hold one sword, and Edmund's over here fighting with two swords. He was very good in a fight, very useful in a fight, very good in negotiation. very perceptive, very protective when he told everyone to get back, and he's just a cool dude. He's a cool guy. This video is a mess, but honestly, guys, it was better than the first video. So I just want to say, do not boo me. I am right. If you don't agree that I'm right, it's fine. It's not that deep. I'm not trying to argue with anyone. It's just that, like, you clearly don't all have all the facts, which are that I love him. So I don't know what's going on anymore. So anyway, I wanted to say thank you for 150 subscribers. Please don't leave. Just because this is a mess. And also, if this gets 100 views by Friday, I will post this video where I was doing something similar. I was sitting on the floor of my apartment in Chewbacca onesie ranting about a Star Wars theory I came up with and was convinced was going to be canon in The Rise of Skywalker, but then it wasn't. But I don't consider The Rise of Skywalker to be canon, so who knows? Anyway, if this gets 100 views by Friday, I will post that video sometime, and if it gets 200 views by Saturday, I will get a hiking Edmund tattoo, because at this point, I don't care. My body is a living room wall, and I'm a toddler with a magic marker. So, here we are. Please help me get views, because the only person getting views on my channel is my mom. This is my channel. So, if you like this, please like and subscribe. If you want me to do more Narnia content, I'm so down. So comment down below if you want me to do anything. I'll even bully C.S. Lewis for 20 minutes in a video, alright? I have lots of memes I've made about C.S. Lewis. Alright, I don't know what's going on anymore. Welcome to 2020. Even though it's the last month of it. Bye!